There is more faith than sitting back and leaving everything to me. You have your part to play, for according to your faith be it unto you. When your complete faith and trust are in me, then anything is possible. Live by faith and demonstrate my laws for all souls to see. Let us work as one, live as one, be as one, as I in you and you in me. When you fully understand that I can do anything, then you realize that you can do anything, for I am working in and through you. Nothing will get done unless you take action and do it. I am within you, and you are my hands and feet. Dedicate those hands and feet to me. Dedicate those hands and feet to me and to my service, so that there is nothing to hold up the work, that everything runs smoothly. See that you work in the perfect harmony and the rhythm of my laws, and behold wonder upon wonder come about, and give eternal thanks for everything.
As we are about to start our study today, on ourselves and all of those in spirit who are with us, as brothers and sisters in humanity, we ask the blessings of the enlightened beings who are with us. They may bless us with their peace and also help us to understand a bit more about the natural laws of life, especially today, where we are reflecting about the dissatisfaction of life and suicide. We ask our Master Jesus, the guide of humanity, to bless us with his love, with his tenderness, with his peace, helping all of us here, as immortal beings as we all are, to carry on our studies and also to learn to value our lives, which have been given by God, value our existences, and value the experiences within each existence, as we are learners of ourselves within the natural laws in the universe, which are all centered in the law which is the greatest power in the universe. May you bless us and help us so that we, as immortal beings and brothers and sisters in humanity, incarnates and also those in the spirit who are here together, may we take this opportunity to review our concepts, our values, to expand them, to go deeper, and also to flexibilize our hearts and minds. And within the vibration of goodness, of peace, light, and love, we start our study today. So be it. Welcome everyone as we are carrying on our studies as immortal beings as we all are, and therefore also learners, because we are already studying, and we carry on the subject which we started last week within the chapter Hopes and Consolations, which is the fourth part of the Spirit's book. Hopes and Consolations, the chapter, the different questions, the different subtitles are helping us to understand the moral aspects of our lives as beings who are in evolution. And we are carrying on today on the subtitle, Dissatisfaction with Life, Suicide, which we went through last week, just to start reflecting that the dissatisfaction with life is down to what? Do we know why we get dissatisfied with life? What could be the reasons?
Because good things might not happen to you.
Sorry?
You might not know that it has to happen to you, so you might just not want to live through it.
I may not want to leave to go through the experiences that I asked to go through because they are beneficial to me. Okay, good. What else? What other reason would be behind when we become dissatisfied with our lives? Because we are immortal beings, we have been created with love from God, in order for us now, through the new reincarnation, to carry on evolving, to carry on progressing, and we asked to go through certain experiences. So what else would we end up being dissatisfied with our life? Would that be through idleness? Yes, because when we are idle, what happens to our minds? We think rubbish, isn't it? We think negatively. And then we find all the experiences that the Creator presents to us creatures in order to evolve, we find them challenging. Some experiences for us, are they challenging here on earth? Yes, they are. Why are some experiences challenging to us?
Because we probably don't know that it's going to go out well.
So we don't know yet how it will be.
Yeah.
We could also be facing the experience in the first time. We may have gone through already previously in the experience and we failed, we didn't get it right, and now we need to redo it. It's almost like when we go to school and we fail the exam. We need to go back and redo it again, isn't it? Sometimes we feel a bit scary, a bit fearful, isn't it? But yet we need to face it in order for us to pass to the next level. It's the same in relation to the evolution. And what do we learn about suicide?
No good suicide.
It's not good to opt for suicide. Why not?
Because it's against God's law.
We would go against God's law. So what are God's laws? Life. For He created us for us to carry on living our lives, our experiences. And suicide would be an extreme act of aggressiveness against God's laws. And God's laws are based on love. Very important to understand. When we would have some ideas to commit suicide, we would be disconnected from the natural great power in the universe, which is love. So when we value our existences, our experiences, our challenges, and we learn to love ourselves. So in that in mind, we carry on the question 947. And let's Chris read the question for us, please.
Can those who have become disheartened with necessity and who allow themselves to die of despair be considered as having committed suicide?
Okay, let's explore the question first. Because we are all learning, we are all studying. What is our understanding about this question today? If we were to reframe it according to our own words, how would that be? Can those who have become disheartened with necessity and who allow themselves to die of despair be considered as having committed suicide? How could we reframe the question?
Can those people who are sad, can they kill themselves?
Okay, those who become disheartened with necessity, what do we understand about necessity? Poor people, the homeless, those who may not have enough to eat or basic needs, would that, when they are in despair, I think is worse than true sadness, in despair, could that be considered having committed suicide? Let's see what we learn with the Enlightened Spirits. They start by saying, we go through gradually because the answer is quite big. They start by saying, it is suicide, but those who have caused it or those who could have prevented it are guiltier than those for whom clemency awaits. Let's just explore that first phase. What do we understand about? Can we see if you go back to the question again? So in case any one of us as immortal beings, when we go through experiences of necessity, we sometimes become hardened, yes? Who could, in the despair that we are living, that experiences, consider committed suicide, and then the spirits say it is suicide. But what else are they saying?
The people who caused it, like, or those who could have stopped it, are guiltier than the people, the person.
Okay, so those who have caused it, and in which way could we cause the despair?
You might bully someone at school and then you might be sad, so they kill themselves.
What else in relation to the necessity that the question was referring to?
Someone who might take your food to you.
Someone may have been responsible and not giving food to someone, yes? That we could have fed them so that they don't enter into despair because they don't have anything to eat, correct? Or, as you well said, those who could have prevented it. Which kind of examples do we have in society that we could prevent people to fall into despair because they don't have the necessary?
Because you could give them something, but you don't, so you choose not to.
We
To
could,
help others.
in which ways could we help them so that they may not get into despair?
You can talk to them.
We can talk to them precisely, find out what is happening, that they are in that condition, offering empathy. What else? If we feel that they are really very in need of food, we can also provide them.
You can ask them to live with you.
You can ask them to live with you, or you could guide them. There was a charity which also looks after them. We could also, if we are able to offer some clothes, especially now in the winter, which is very cold for those who stay outside.
Or give them a hot pie.
You get, what do you offer them?
In winter, you could give them a pie.
Okay, a pie, hot coffee, tea, because it's cold. So we have different means. We can help them on the biological level, feeding them, but we can help them on the psychological and emotional level, talking to them, guiding them towards another institution which could carry on helping them. Yeah.
But from the question, I understood allow them to die. It's not like giving up life, not really killing. But
And those who
themselves
have
to
become
die.
disheartened with necessity means those who are really in despair and who allow themselves to die of despair be considered to having committed suicide.
To die of despair, I understood like giving up life.
Yes, it's giving up, and it's almost like there's no way out. Disheartened. The key word here is disheartened.
So it's like they are giving up. They don't actually, they commit suicide, but not in a active way. Like they give up, then they are also.
Well, it depends. It depends on the intention, because some of them could go really actively. But it depends because the intention that is behind.
Okay.
Can you see?
Yes.
So they don't. Some of them may choose. What is the point to carry on living in this situation where I find myself? Yeah. And some could also choose not through pride, quite often, not to ask for help. And as more as we carry on day by day without the necessity of eating, for instance, we also start to deteriorate, which is our basic need, isn't it? Yeah. Is that making sense? Okay. So now we carry on the next phrase then. However, do not think they will be entirely absolved if they lacked firmness and perseverance, or fail to make the best use of their intelligence to get themselves out of their difficulties. What do we learn now with this second phrase?
And where did you stop?
I started here where it says,
However.
yes.
You stopped.
However, do not think that they will be entirely absolved.
They are still guilty.
So why are we still guilty or responsible?
Because sometimes they don't persevere to try to change the situation. So if they are not if they don't insist in trying to change the situation, they are also guilty because they could have done better for themselves.
Okay, and what do we learn as immortal beings about that? Because today, so far, we are not in this condition. But we don't know what happens in the future situations for us. Never give up. And what do we need to do in order to never give up?
Keep trying.
Keep trying. In which way?
Keep trying to get through.
What is the cause, the major cause behind the suicide? Does it start outside or inside? Inside. In which way?
The lack of food, so sometimes you might like get
sad. So we are talking about our thinking, our thoughts. In order for us to consider to commit suicide, we have the idea, we think about. So for us then to look after yourself, to persevere, we need to observe what we are thinking and choose to re-educate our thoughts. Instead of thinking in committing suicide, I don't want to live my life anymore, I choose to think, to be grateful for the life that God gave to me, because God is love and He wants me to learn to love myself, to love my existence, to love learning through His methodology that He is presented to us. Yeah? So perseverance means carry on, insisting, persisting. If I may be in a situation internally through the thinking in a very negative way, let's talk with someone. Could be with our mom, with our dad, or if we are adults, with our teacher, or with our boss, or with a friend, or otherwise we go in therapy, we ask help, we explore.
People in the street.
Sorry?
Or just normal people, for example, in the street. Because my teacher told me this story, and there was a man who was on the tube. He didn't have any money, and there was the guy who then he told him to the poor man, and then he figured out something.
Yes, that is already a way of helping. When we approach others to talk, to find out, sometimes you just need to sit there and talk, and that alleviates the internal pressure, where the person sometimes just goes in a circle of negativity, and we can help to break that free. Yeah? And then they can or fail to make the best use of their intelligence to get themselves out of their difficulties. How can we develop our intelligence? Are we developing our intelligence as we carry on evolving? Yes. So in which way, when the enlightened spirits say, or failed to make the best use of their intelligence? Work? You mean professional work? Any kind of work?
Yeah, that's for the good.
Okay. I wonder if they are helping us to understand, in order to improve our intelligence, they are asking us for us to choose to think in a different way towards the solution. But I have a problem here, yes, but what is the way out? Which options do I have available? Because in order to do that, we need to think, isn't it? And in that way, we are developing our intelligence according to the divine intelligence. And what will usually happen? We will find solutions. Yes? Is that making sense? Because the solutions are within. When we activate our thinking in a positive way according to God's laws, somehow the help is there, because no one is abundant in the universe. We all are assisted by the good spirits and by God for sure. Yeah? Now, if we carry on here, when they say to get themselves out of their difficulties, how do we as immortal beings understand difficulties?
For like sad things that happen in your life.
Sadness. Difficulties, would I be right in saying new learnings, challenges? What?
Needs.
They are more referring to our new learnings that we as spirits need to go through in order to potentialize ourselves more, to learn more about ourselves. So what we sometimes, when we are sad or when we are very limited, may think difficulties, but when we see ourselves as learners, we see them as experiences. And they are experiences not to put ourselves down or to even consider suicide, but experiences to help us, to promote us in taking care about ourselves. Now we carry on to the next part, which says, they will be even more unfortunate if their despair paralyzes their intelligence, who would be ashamed at having to earn their living.
The despair of the child of pride.
Oh, sorry. They will be even more unfortunate if their despair was the child of pride, that is, if they were one of those whose pride paralyzes their intelligence, who would be ashamed at having to earn their living by manual labor, and who would prefer to die of starvation rather than descend from what they call their social position. What do we learn here now?
They could choose to work, but they don't want to work.
Okay, so there is work for them to do?
Yeah, because they just want to die by starvation.
Okay. So for sure there is work there for us, yes, for everyone, because God looks after and provides for everyone. But why don't we want to do the work?
Because you might be cold or something, maybe.
Pride.
to pride, as they say here, yes, because they said the child of pride. Why is it because of pride? Why pride impedes us to accept a manual labor, for instance?
Because we think we are better than that.
Because we think we are better.
There are help, easier things coming our
Precisely.
way.
And we think through the pride in ourselves, because we judge us better than we are. We think that doing a simple work would diminish our value, which is a lie. Because every job, every work is a blessing that God gives to His children for us to grow and to learn, as long as we do it in an honest way.
I think also because one may think that the others have that and they have come to them easy without doing any effort, so they deserve the same. If someone has a house and a nice food on the table and a nice car to drive, then everyone should have the same without effort.
Correct. So again, it's the effort refers to previous phrase that we read when we don't want to develop our intelligence. In order for us to develop the efforts to put into, we also need to develop intelligence, to take responsibility for ourselves, to understand that that is the way, the move towards evolution. Without efforts, without repeating, without being persistent, be firm, as they mentioned previously, we will not move forward. Yeah? Anything else that comes to us here? Is another way that we set pride, and through pride sometimes you may have a higher position in a job, and then suddenly you may be made redundant. It can happen to us, or the company shuts down, or whatever happens, and then I also may be invited through life to accommodate myself in a simpler way. There is no problem. It's important that we understand that within, because quite often there are people who think and commit suicide when their social position changes. And that is a result of the pride, which is the rebelliousness.
Yeah, that is something we live with daily. We see these examples everywhere. I worked in a company and we had a problem in the bathrooms, in the toilets. And the guy was working on the floor and he went and the lady said, oh, the toilet is blocked. I cannot do anything, and it's too heavy. Can you bump it? Can you do something for me? And he said, no, I'm the supervisor. I'm not going to deal with that. You go and sort it out. And she said, I tried already and I can't do nothing. And he said, then close the door and that's it. And she came out and then the owner of the place was around. And then he saw and he said, well, what is happening? Why you carrying all of that out? Oh, the toilet is blocked. And then he said, oh, let me see. And he went there and he did it himself. And the manager then went and helped him. And the supervisor was like, should I have done that? I don't think I should have. You know, they have people for that, not a service that we should have done it. But when he saw that the owner didn't even let the manager do it, he did it himself. And then the lady said, that's a real man. And he was like, nah, you know, it's just because it's his place. And then we bring him back to us and think, would I have done it if I was in that position? Would I have gone and done the job, or would I have put it off for somebody else? That shows us that some people have that simplicity in their hearts, and some of us don't even know what that is.
Yes, we would never consider that. When other people just, I would say in Portuguese, arregaça as mangas, go and do it and face it, because the spirit already lived through experiences. Doesn't matter in which position you go and do, but the universe is inviting you to help and cooperate towards the good of everyone.
If it needs to be done, and I do myself.
Precisely. Doesn't matter in which position we are. If you want to free yourself from pride, that is the way forward. Yeah? Can we move on? Let's move on then to the next part. It's still on the question 947. And it's still the enlightened spirits carry on saying, is there not 100 times more greatness and dignity in struggling against adversity and braving the criticism of a futile and selfish society, which only shows goodwill towards those who lack nothing, and which turns its back on you in your time of need? To throw away one's life because of the considerations of such a society is a stupid thing, since society will not care about it in the least.
Is it like if you face it, with nothing, and you're just doing it, and you're trying, and the society does nothing but just help the people, or the people, or help the people who have everything they want and are popular and stuff.
Okay, what else? What comes to us? If you start with the first phrase, is there not 100 times more greatness and dignity in struggling against adversity? What do we learn here? Why would that be of greater value? Do you have an idea? In braving the criticism of a futile and selfish society. How do we understand it? Dignity. Why is there greater dignity in struggling against adversity? What do we understand adversity? The struggles of life, isn't it? As we carry on the previous part already. So why is that dignity when we, let's say, face the adversity, face the challenges of our
Because you're accepting what's happening.
Because I'm accepting, and why would I accept the adversities in my life?
Because maybe it happens to so many other people.
Okay, what else? Why is it good for me to accept the adversities in my life?
I think we develop faith and patience when we find a better way of dealing with the difficulties that comes our way, on being humble and accepting the situation is this, and what can I do better? What can I get good from it? Instead of just feeling sorry for myself or blaming the society or the government or whoever is on my side or the company or whatever the situation is, it may be calling upon me to be peaceful within myself instead of letting what is happening outside take out my peace.
Okay, and why would I behave in that way? Do you have an idea? Are we looking these teachings from a materialistic, from a body level, or from an immortal level, as immortal beings? So we would choose what you just said, to submit ourselves and not fight against adversities, but yes, learn from them, because we are immortal beings. We are returning to this full earth and facing the adversities, which are experiences, in order to promote ourselves ethically and morally. Then which kind of virtue would be developing in facing adversities? You mentioned humbleness. What else? Huh? Patience, for sure. What other virtues? Which other ethical values do we as immortal beings develop when we are facing and struggling with the adversities, which are experiences for us to grow? Honesty, dignity, for sure. I'm learned to be, with my mind, dignified in relation to God's laws, in relation to the natural laws in the universe. Which other values? Which other virtues? We can all think. Let's develop the intelligence as we saw previously. Which other virtues is the spirit? Faith, for sure. And then we can look faith within different angles. But love, for sure. Love towards whom? Towards God, and who else?
Yourself.
First, ourselves. Developing love when we are in the struggling moments here. Instead of rebellious through pride, we now develop humbleness and therefore respect towards ourselves. Honesty, as it was said, sincerity, those are the, let's say, the children of the love that we are developing. Yeah? Would we say respect also to ourselves? Yeah? Responsibility towards ourselves, which is internal autonomy to now choose to live with more clarity and dignity and honesty within.
Then maybe you can control your selfishness?
Sorry?
Control your selfishness?
Control yourself.
I didn't get it.
Control yourself.
Control. How do I control my selfishness?
When this happens to you, you're like, oh, it's only me who's happening.
Okay, so that is the victim position, yeah? Poor me. So what is God inviting us to learn in these moments then? To carry on saying, oh my God, everything is happening with me? What is He wanted me to develop? To learn to be a child of God who brings within the potentials to face any kind of adversity. Simplicity, kindness, acceptance, perseverance. Yes, correct? Okay. Now, what else do we get here? When they say engraving the criticism of a futile and selfish society. What comes to our minds with that?
Basically, the things that happen in a selfish, in a selfish way.
Why do they say futile and selfish society?
I think society at this moment, hopefully won't be like that for too long, has a very material way of seeing things or to how to be or what to value. So if you go against that, you will be criticized. And I think that's why you're saying you've been brave in facing that criticism, but you standing by what you believe in, what you, your values, even if it goes against societal values.
Precisely, because if you go back to the question, it's important to make a link with that. The question says, can those who have become disheartened with necessity and who allow themselves to die of despair be considered as having committed suicide? This is what we are referring here, yes? And when they say here about society, I think you rightly point out, which also refers, quite often we still look down those brothers and sisters in humanity who are temporarily going through experience of homelessness, let's say, because of our pride, of our hardened heart. Yes. So if we go through that, we may find support in the divine, which helps us all to go through the experiences and learn from them. Yeah. And also in that way, helping to collaborate in the society to change the patterns that we still have, because each one of us are part of the society, isn't it?
We still nowadays don't see goodness and good, what good we see as weakness.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone accepts a situation that comes around, and let's say that the society have a way out of that, or have a way of diminishing, then one is expected to use any means to get whatever they need or to get in that position. And when you don't, then everyone does fine. Yes. And it's strange. And to do the right thing becomes odd.
Yes.
And other people may see it as stupidity. The person has no intentions. How can they give up something this great? Or how can they not see they could use this or that solution? But they don't think that the person is doing that in goodwill.
Because they have, even if they are in a very simple position, but they have already dignity in the heart. They have honesty already in their hearts, isn't it? So yes, rightly said. Sometimes we saw that on the study on Monday in the Gospel, that if someone finds a sum of money in the street, what would you do with that? And of course, we see and we hear through the news sometimes here and there on earth, there are people who find huge sums of money and they give it back to the owner. That is dignity. That is what we are aiming later on in society, to be part of this kind of society. When we start
find
to
a
be
person who's the money and they give it to you. Can't you just give it to the poor people?
to give it to what?
To the poor people.
We can't. If the money is given to us, we are free to choose to give to the poor, to give a charity who helps other people in need. And surely that would be what we would choose to do, isn't it? Yes.
I think dignity is still something most of us have no idea about.
We are very far away because we still are within a society which is very corrupt. And if we are living in a society which is very corrupt, that means that we also have traces of that we came back now to free ourselves from. to learn to be honest, to be sincere, all of those virtues that go together with dignity. Yes.
When you say like politicians that come up with a set of rules they want to implement, and we look at each one of them and each planning they presenting, and all you find within one or other one is things that shouldn't be anymore. It's wrong, presenting in the wrong way with the wrong purpose, and then you think this is the society I'm living in. This is what the people that are coming to help us, to drive us towards a better way, is presenting us, is proposing us, and these are all the proposals we have, and all of them have all these mistakes. Then this is part of who I am.
Yes, we bring in different degrees those aspects, especially those that we criticize a lot of politicians or any person. Those are really our own shadows. That we now came back to cooperate individually and collectively in the society to enlighten our own shadows, to re-educate ourselves within the real values in life. And within that restructuring process, mentally and emotionally, we are also cooperating through the non-verbal communication with those who are in power, with those who are in charge. That is what the enlightened beings are helping us to teach, especially in these moments that we are going through.
On a daily basis, it's hard to know which action to take and how to understand that myself so I can pass that into my son. Because when I see things happening or notice that they taking that way and that's where they're going, and then I don't know how to deal with them. I don't know how to place in a way that we don't need to follow that we can make
the best way, Frau Denise, for all of us, it is to carry on and study the natural laws as we are and as the enlightened spirits are inviting humanity, because we need to carry on and study that gradually. We understand more the natural laws which we carry within already. With the learning, the study is just helping us to activate them within. And then we increase also our discernment more and more as we carry on evolving on the rational and emotional level. Then we know how to behave ourselves. Even if the majority goes in that direction, if I know that that is not according to the natural laws in the universe, I will not go. I will keep my position and I will be loyal to my conscience and to God.
to develop that.
To develop that is faith, what Thais previously said. Faith is internal, sacred conviction in relation to the principles that govern the universe.
As it says, we live in a total selfish society, and then it makes me, how can I recognize where and how we are being selfish and futile, and how can we change this? How can I change that on a daily basis? How can I propose a different way of living for my son so he will carry that on and so around me, who I live with? How can I convince myself enough to be able to be the example that brings to others the same idea?
Carry on study. There is no miracle overnight, because we need to rebuild or restructure our cycle within the natural laws, because we are also spirits who are coming from the futile and materialistic society from previous existences. All of us, we are coming from that. Some of us are already more freer because we put the effort into each time when we are in a new existence to really prioritize more spirituality, or to see life more from a transpersonal perspective and engage with the material levels in that way. We become more simpler on our hearts because we develop the virtues within. We choose to follow more the pathway of goodness, and the good is not what is good for me in a selfish way, but the goodness that promotes the community. And as more as we do that, we also become stronger in believing in our faith. And when in the position as a mother, we are stronger to also to talk to our children, not only to talk, but also to live, because we know that a lot of teachings goes on the way that we behave. Yes? A lot of teachings is the way that we behave, which is the non-verbal communication.
Words most times, they don't convince, and we don't have explanation or reasoning enough to use with just words to show something.
Yes, and also in the new generation, welcome new generation, yes? Sometimes we know a lot on intellectual level, but we need now to soften our hearts. So that is also part of our learning. Also for us as mothers and fathers as we are, we also need to, and also sometimes in order to help our children, we need to run and study because we are behind already. In order to answer the question that our children are raising, the doubts that they are presenting, for us to have a rational way of presenting the real life, because otherwise we are not convincing them, and that is our responsibility. Yes?
I feel that need because lots of things I may have a different point now to like on the horizon, but I haven't got the real understanding, the feeling. I haven't lived it. It's still old habits, old bad habits that have been installed in me. I have repeated them over and over. Now that I'm becoming aware of them and realizing they're not what I want anymore, or what I should be following, it's hard for me to change that setting and then to bring that out of me.
It is a challenge for all of us, but the main point is to understand that we cannot change overnight. We need to put efforts on daily basis, be attentive what life presents us in terms of possibilities that we can invest in us in terms of study, reflecting, if it's collective, it's even better in group because we learn with each other, even at home, and carry on doing the best that we can. On the end of the day, as St. Augustine teaches us, reflect, meditate, how was your day? Would you say that most of the time you got things right or not? And if not, why? How can I learn? How can I apply it in the next day in a different way? Yes. But never giving up of his study. Always investing more, because our ignorance still is quite huge. And we are part from the selfish and futile society from yesterday. We still bring those habits. Unless we carry on, listen what the enlightened beings are telling us, we still have that very strong, and we may get lost within that.
And we are part still from this existence.
We still are.
Previous, but I think we are still in a selfish system.
I say the previous because we bring those patterns on the psychological and emotional level. And then we have all these studies sometimes, but when it comes to make decisions and take responsibility for what I agreed in the spiritual world, I may fall back to my old habits and do it against them. It's easier because of the conditions. We bring that. So it's easier, but it's not for a better way in our existence. It's only easy because it is a habit, and habits are experiences which we repeated continuously. Now we need to be willing to go through the struggling of putting effort, persisting, and building the new ways of being, even in the society where we are, because we are back in this society because of old habits, for us to free them in the present, to make new choices. Because we always come back to an environment where we failed previously, or where we weren't able to learn what we need to learn, so that we now can choose to interact in this same environment in a different way, from a different perspective, using our free will in a more responsible way. And it's always understanding responsibilities of autonomy of choice. Now I learned, I noticed my tendencies, but I now choose to behave and be in a different way, in a loving way. Yeah? Anything else that you take from here? No? Otherwise, we carry on then on the question 948. Thais, would you like to read it for us, please?
Is suicide committed in order to escape the shame of a wrongful act as reprehensible as suicide committed out of despair?
Let's explore the question. We still are within dissatisfaction with life, suicide. How do we understand this question at present? I read it again, pay attention. Is suicide committed in order to escape the shame of a wrongful act as reprehensible as suicide committed out of despair?
Do people commit suicide to stop their existence? Something is wrong?
Okay, who else helps us?
People who kill themselves because they are ashamed of something they did wrong. Is it as guilt as people who kill themselves out of not doing a different word, despair, out of help
Out of despair, what is another word? Out of anguish,
Yes.
yes. Out of darkness, because in those moments we just see the darkness, yes. Okay, very good. My question is, what do we understand when the question refers in order to escape the shame of our own fault? Examples. Do we have examples on earth?
People
Yes.
that get pregnant early and the parents will not accept, so they kill themselves.
They could go with that way, yes. What else? That the spirit, because we are talking about the spirit, may be facing an experience through their psychological and emotional immaturity. They may want to die because of shame, yes. Which other wrong
Maybe you
experience?
put like an inappropriate video on YouTube.
Yes, that happens quite often these days. Unfortunately, the bullying that people take pictures and put out and they cannot cope with that. That is correct. Well done to say that. There's a very current experience that unfortunately still is happening.
If someone leaves you, or like you're in a relationship, and the other person leaves you, you might take your life because you think that that's over. There's nothing.
Of despair, again, because we are so fragile emotionally, so dependable on others. So if the partner may leave, I may feel like, what is the reason? I cannot live without him. Yes, that does happen.
When we do things wrong and we see that it's going to be brought out, like if we stole an amount of money,
Okay.
if we have betrayed someone,
Precisely.
or if we have
Unlawful sometimes.
unlawful do something against society and it's about to come out, or if I sold something that wasn't mine, or if I lied about like medicine that was something for cancer or something and it was just made at home like with powder
Okay.
and sell that to someone
Okay.
who needed it and it's about to be discovered, then I may be facing the law or some other things, and then I would just think, oh, instead of going through the court or,
Going to the correctness of mine, a wrongful act. Yes, I want to run away, thinking that a suicide will be the solution. Is it? No, why not? Life carries on. No one dies. Even if I go to the most wrong movement in my life, the most aggressive, which is to try to stop my body to function, my existence will carry on. I'm still alive and I'm still facing the same issue which is waiting for me to sort out and to face. So there is no experience for any human being on earth, whatever we may have done, that we cannot face if we choose to dignify ourselves, choose to go through and learn, because the experiences are transitory. God is not judging us and anyone. God gives us new opportunities for us to redo our experiences.
That brought me thinking, sometimes we see when, like this year, there was a case where a singer committed suicide. And on the social media, I could see a lot of people posting, like, oh, you have the courage to finish your suffering, or the courage to do that. And then there was a lot. There wasn't just one person saying, putting the suicide as someone having the courage to do it, as something that they should be proud of. And it got me thinking that how society is teaching you that you are coward if you stay in face, but you have courage if you take your life, which is completely the other way around.
It is.
You have the courage to face your problems or your crimes or to do it right, not taking your life. But society teaches us that no, it's the other way. If you take your life, you have
We can still see, unfortunately, in the 21st century, how strong pride and selfishness is taught through society. We still are, even in schools, presented that, and that is wrong. And this is the cause of many sufferings, because it's based on materialism. It's based on this existence. So what? Why should we be going through? Imagine if I'm a very recognized personality in the world, and suddenly everything was disclosed. Why should I go through if I can just go and commit suicide? But the reality is, from a spiritual perspective, no one dies, and the suicide is the wrongest way, the worst way for us, because we need to come back and face it. And as I mentioned, we always still do mistakes in a different degrees. Whatever we may have done, let's face this, and even this question is very important as we are carrying on developing it. For those perhaps who are with us studying who committed suicide, God does not blame anyone. God wants us to learn. There are new opportunities given. And also as we are reflecting about ourselves, the same reflection goes for every child of God. Whatever we did, we can do it differently. And whatever we are facing, it is for us to grow. It's never for us to punish. It's never for us to diminish ourselves. And whatever we go through, and also difficulties, or what we saw in the previous question, which is the adversaries, is important to understand that we cooperate to create them in our existences. And not to blame ourselves, but we are under the law of cause and effect. So the adversaries, the difficulties are lessons for us to learn to do it in a different way, which is promoting us towards real happiness in the universe. Okay?
For a lot of us that are very material, the understanding of life carrying on, it's a myth. And then where what she comments that a lot of people see as act of courage, because if you believe this life is all there is, and you are afraid to give up, you are afraid to die, because you don't know what is there, or you don't know how long you have, or what could happen in the future, and you choose always to have hope that something is going to change or something is going to happen, because this is all there is. And once you face that things are too painful, too much for you to have any hope to stay, and then you give up and you commit suicide. Others that have been feeling the same way, which is a great number in our society nowadays, then they feel this, that I don't have courage, because I've been thinking about it day after day, and I can't do it because I am too attached to other things, and I'm too hopeful to give up. And then one may feel even more painful that they don't have that courage, not understanding that they are being held in those moments when they don't give in and they carry on with life, because they are being helped maybe by the ones that love them and been praying for them, or for the goodness they have been done or they've done before, and that now is bringing them that hope so they don't give up.
So would it be time for us to explore what courage means actually? What is courage? For sure it's not committing suicide. That is weaknesses. That is weaknesses of the heart, based on pride and selfishness and rebelliousness. So what is courage?
When you have the strength to do something.
When we have the strength to face our adversaries, and adversaries are experiences that are challenging for us as we are learning, correct? So how do we develop now this courage, this strength? Based on what? Because we need to have some reason. Why would I then now believe that that is the right way? Because we are immortal beings. We are children of God. God created us simple and ignorant and gave the life to us, and only He has the right to take it away, no one else. He loves us in any situation that we are undergoing. As you mentioned, we all also have our spiritual benefactors who are always with us, helping us in those moments of despair. Because the despair quite often is the lack of resignation, the lack of obedience, the lack of submitting myself to a greater power than my ego. Courage means doing what the Creator wants us to do as immortal beings. But the experience is there. Face it as a learner, because the experiences are transitory. Sooner or later, they will change in our existences. Face them. When I say face, I don't mean to sit there and don't do anything. Face means, what do we need to learn, as we studied in the previous question? How do I need to develop my intelligence to sort that out? What is the universe inviting me to learn about the ethical, the real values in the universe? Because once we promote ourselves more within those values, the despair will diminish. And the understanding of courage will completely be different. Courage is really the one of us who can face ourselves in any situation with our heads up, facing the natural laws in the universe and not running from them. That is courage. That is strengthening us on the emotional dimension and mental.
I think for the ones that already had committed suicide and left, the understanding that simplicity and humbleness is something we can develop any time. We can choose
All of
to
us.
accept.
All
We
of
can
us.
choose to carry on.
Even where we are now, even those who are with us studying, where we are assisted by good beings who love us, who are not judging us, who are helping us to understand who we are, immortal beings, helping us to understand, as we are here studying about the universal principle of love in the universe. What moves everything and everyone is the love that comes from God. There is no experience that we are facing that we cannot face it. And if you committed suicide, that is not the end of the world. God will not ask to spend time in feeling guilty and get stuck in the negativity. God wants us to learn. If I did it, accept that I did, accept the help of the benefactors who are around, who will promote new possibilities for us to study, for us to strengthen ourselves morally, and new opportunities through new reincarnations will be granted for all of us. But we can start to redo that right now where we find ourselves. Okay? Do you want to say something? No? Can we move on then? Now reflecting about what the spirits are telling us. Let's just go to the question. Is suicide committed in order to escape the shame of a wrongful act of reprehensible, or is suicide committed out of despair? Then the Enlightened Spirits are teaching us, suicide does not erase the wrong. On the contrary, it is a second wrong added to the first. Those who have the courage to do wrongful things should have the courage to bear the consequences. God is the one who judges. Moreover, depending on the cause, God can at times lessen its punishment. Let's explore now, how did we hear that?
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Sorry?
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Precisely. And if we start from the beginning, when they say suicide does not erase the wrong,
It doesn't take away the wrong.
it doesn't take away the experience that I need to go through. And whatever I did wrong, I need to correct, isn't it? Okay? What else comes to us?
That part of the courage comes to what we were talking about. If you have the courage to do something wrong, then you have the courage to face it.
That is the real courage. It's not the courage to expand the weakness within us, but the courage, I did it wrong, I face it within. Because that we develop, in that way we develop dignity. And in order to do that, in order to position within that way, within, we need to also choose to learn to be humble. To admit, I did it wrong. And it's okay, because we are learning. We don't need to feel guilty if we do something wrong. We just need to learn to accept, and what can I learn now, and redo the experience from that moment onwards.
Jesus told us so many times he said, you've seen until now goes and don't sin. Is that you did it wrong? Everyone does it wrong.
Precisely.
Don't stay on that guilt. Now you admit it and have the courage to just carry on and don't do it anymore.
Because admitting or accepting the wrongdoing means a training of self-love. Self-love is part of the ability to accept the wrong that I did, and if it involves another person, to refer to that person, if not to myself, and then accept now to take responsibility and behaving differently, mentally and on the behavior level as well. Okay.
Nowadays, suicide is such a strong issue to be dealt with when we see it among lots of children and youngsters.
Yeah.
And just coming out of the month of prevention towards life, it came out a movie that is called now The Star is Born, which is a movie that, for me, encourages the suicide. I don't know how people is going to see through that, because for me it was quite strong that the movie went through that way and ended in that position, showing people that that's what should be the choice. When you've done something wrong to someone that you cannot correct, or you feel that you may not be able to correct, that is too shame for yourself to stand for it. When the reality we just talked about is to have the courage to face it.
Shame usually is linked to pride as well. Because when we learn to be humble, whatever we did, we can always correct. And as we are coming to the end of our studies today, in these moments of deep reflections about suicide, let's reflect about life, about respecting our existence. God created everyone with love in order for us to learn to love ourselves, to love others, to love life. Whatever we may have done, let's forgive ourselves. Let's train self-love within. We are all essentially beings of love, beings of goodness. Our limitations are experiences that we are learning to free ourselves from. And God, the creator of the universe, believes in every each one of us in our process of actualization. We are divine beings within. Whatever we carry from our history, let's choose to learn about the principles that guide the universe, the virtues, the courage to face our own consciousness, the courage to forgive ourselves, the courage to admit that we did eventually some wrong, but we are learners and correct and give ourselves new opportunities within the infinite possibilities that the universe is giving to every each one. We asked the good spirits, they may light our minds and hearts right now. They may bless us with the vibrations of peace that soothes us in a gentle, loving way, that is strengthening us so that we carry on committed with ourselves to always carry on and persist in developing inner strength today and always. So be it.